former gang boss has been recalled to prison 4 months after publicly thanking the Derby police chief who took him off the streets.
Carlus Grant spoke to us in June about getting a second chance after his violent lifestyle in Allenton spiralled out of control. He served 10 years for ordering the shooting of a man who was seriously injured. But after being released, he asked to meet the retired chief superintendent who described Grant as the head of Derby's most serious and violent gang.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and it's strange how it came about, but without that opportunity, like I said to you before, I don't think I would have found a way out. It started by me going to prison.
Carlus has the potential to have so much influence over young people. He can show them that that's not a life you want to take, and he can be a very positive role model if he wants to be.
Andy, thank you very much. Take care.
Well, that was Carlus Grant 4 months ago. Our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball's been following this story. He's at Derby Crown Court tonight. So, Jeremy, good evening. So why has Carlus Grant gone back to prison?
Well, Dominic, this is a pretty typical example of what they call the revolving door of crime and punishment and reoffending. Now, Carlus Grant was rearrested here in Derby last month after being caught with Class A drugs. Today he appeared at Crown Court here on a video link from jail where he admitted possession with intent to supply of both heroin and cocaine. Now, because of that, his prison licence has been revoked, and we'll hear an explanation of why he was doing it when he's sentenced here next month.
Some people say, Jeremy, that a leopard doesn't change his spots, so were people wrong to trust him?
Well, this is a point I put to him directly, actually, when I spoke to him back in June. And you might remember at the time, the former police chief said that he'd be judged by the way he acted, not what he said. Now, today, because of that, I went back to Andy Huff, that former police chief, to ask for his reaction. And he said he's saddened, he's disappointed by today's news, but he isn't surprised by it. And he said this case really raises some serious questions about the way that prisoners are released on licence.
I think the big lesson to be learned here is that Carlus shouldn't have been returned to Derby, and particularly the community where he learnt his trade craft as a criminal. He should have been located in another town where he was unable to contact those who he previously committed crime with, and more importantly, they couldn't contact him because they've exploited his vulnerabilities like he used to exploit the vulnerabilities of others. It's not just about locking them up and throwing away the key. We've got to work with these individuals, and that takes time and effort.
Now, I've also been speaking to the youth leader who supported Carlus Grant out of jail, and Joe Russo says he's convinced that Grant was genuinely trying to turn his life around and was actually making an impact, doing things like speaking to youth workers and probation officers. But he says, look, they always knew this was going to be a risk, but it's a risk they thought that was worth taking. Tonight, though, of course, Carlus Grant is back in jail, and it's a story, of course, that's all too familiar in the criminal justice system.